Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 7 of Showtime's Yellowjackets, entitled Burial. And this title looks to have something of a dual meaning. I like titles that have dual meanings because, I don't know, it makes me feel like I gotta work a little bit harder. Like, as opposed to a title where they say the title they say the title in the episode. I like these ones that have a dual meaning, or ones where I have to do some research to figure out what they mean, but this was not too deep. I think it has a dual meaning. We have the very literal sense that is Shauna's burial of her baby. Burial, I use the term loosely. We know the ground is too frozen to actually bury somebody, but she essentially buries it in a tomb of rocks, like surrounding it. But then we also have the mention of, I think, a metaphorical burial. When the adult Yellowjackets are getting wasted at Lottie's cult, Natalie asks them how much they remember from their time in the wilderness. And I kind of wish they'd explored that a little bit more. And I'm not saying that they didn't, or that I'm not even saying that they did an insufficient job of exploring it. I just wish they'd done it a little bit more because I find that interesting. Like, just the idea of like how many of them, like how many of them are in the room right at that moment. Let's say 7. The idea that 25 years later, even doing what they did or what they claim to have done, that maybe we don't know about yet, that some of that shit they can just be like, yeah, we did that. I remember that shit. Like casually, just like, oh yeah, well, we cut that one girl head off, didn't we? Like, that kind of shit. I'd be interested in hearing just how much of that they remember. Maybe sharing some things like, I remember this, I remember that, but not a big deal. But they basically say some stuff's kind of hazy, and this leads into Lottie talking about suppression, or as a thesaurus might call it, the burial of traumatic memories, and how that's fairly commonplace. So you have like the metaphorical burial of their, not just their trauma, but like, and this is talked about and explored in the episode as well, this primal urge that they developed when they were around it in the wilderness. And the idea that Lottie, I believe, she feels like she's burying that right now. She probably believes that the other women are burying that as well, which is why she asked them to leave. So, I think it's a pretty good title for this episode. Lottie's therapist, and only Lottie could have taken the time to research a therapist and unwittingly decided on herself. but Lottie's therapist tells her that maybe suppressing these feelings and repressing these urges is what's causing her these problems, and maybe that she should consider being more free and embracing these urges. And like I alluded to, we learned that Lottie does not actually have a therapist giving her all this bad advice. Not only is there no therapist, but I think we're meant to understand essentially that the therapist is a version of it from the wilderness that is the part that is retained within Lottie, that she believes is retained within everyone else as well, that's manifesting in a physical way, that she is seeing in a physical way at certain times, to encourage her to do what it wants her to do. Which is why we saw that brief moment where it had the antler on and the mesh netting. I don't know. whatever you want to call that. But I really liked a lot of the stuff that I just talked about, like what they were doing with the burial theme and the suppression of the trauma and the I keep blanking on the words. The primal. The primal for some reason I'm blanking on that today. But the suppression of these primal urges and stuff like that, I thought that was really good stuff. Unfortunately, that was one of the very few things I found compelling about this episode. And you know, I'm tired of getting in front of you guys and saying I didn't like this episode. There are probably some of you who are thoroughly enjoying this season who are tired of me saying that I'm not. But for me, this was about as close to a filler episode as you can get on Yellowjackets, and is easily my least favorite episode of this season and of the series, because season one didn't have any misses. Like season one I think was my number 2 show of the year for 2021. So I mean, there weren't any misses there. So I mean, expanding this to say it being my least favorite episode of this season would automatically also make it the least favorite overall. But I mean, that's how I feel. At the end of the day, I don't hate the episode or anything like that. When I say it's my least favorite of the series, that's still a pretty high bar by and large. But this season as a whole, I think it's pretty clear by this point, it's just not working for me at all. It's about 10% as compelling as last season was. You know, last season, we of course had the wilderness storyline being driven by the immediate aftermath of the crash, the intrigue of wondering, like, how are these girls going to survive on their own? Like, obviously, they had been there or whatever. But, you know, by and large, you know, the girls are going to be on their own. The girls plus Travis and Javi. Like, you know, how are they going to survive this on their own with already us knowing, like, well, they make it back somehow. So they got to do some fucked up stuff to get there. So you had that kind of driving season one. And in the adult storyline, we spent the season wondering who was attempting to blackmail the women. Who is Adam? Like, what is he up to? And I knew the end zone for season one was finding out who was blackmailing them early on. Like, okay, this is what we're working toward. Like, all of these things that are happening, we're working toward the end goal of the show, essentially in the finale or maybe just short of, whatever. But we're working toward finding out who is blackmailing these girls, why, who is Adam, you know, all that kind of stuff. Even if we don't actually land there by the end of the season, I still knew that's what we were working toward. Conversely, we're through 7 episodes of this season, and I still don't know what the fuck the adult storyline is working toward. Like, Misty's storyline has been all over the place, trying to cover up the Adam thing early on, trying to find Natalie, meeting Walter. Now she's at the cult. Where is Misty's storyline going? What is her? It's just her meandering from one location and one brief story arc to the next one, and it doesn't, like, I can't say like this is where Misty's storyline. Like how I said, like, even if we don't get there, I knew that the adult storyline was. I'm sorry, the kid storyline. Well, both actually. What they were working toward in season one. I don't know where we're going with Misty at all. Like, I don't know where this is headed. Same with Shauna. Shauna's storyline has been replete with ridiculously implausible and stupid plans and decisions. And again, leading toward what exactly? Like, where is the Shauna storyline going? It had a purpose in season one. You know, everyone did. Shauna's purpose, obviously everything with Adam. Ty was dealing with Night Taissa and how that was impacting her marriage. So we knew where that was going, like a resolution to Night Taissa and what was happening with Sammy, which we ended up getting. We knew where that was going. I can't remember. Misty had old girl tied up. I can't remember where that was going. But again, we knew where it was going. Who is Adam? Is Taissa gonna become a senator? All this kind of shit. Right now, I'm like, what am I supposed to be wondering? What, like, I don't have a what is gonna happen with Shauna's blank at the end of this season. Like, I don't even know where it's supposed to be going. It's just shit happening. You know, the show said, fuck Simone and Sammy all together. Like, if you guys, I don't know if you guys remember this, at the beginning of the season, Taissa was married and had a kid. Now she's like, incredibly hotly, tongue fucking Van by the campfire. And again, maybe you guys, I forgot. I remember that she had a wife and a kid. The show doesn't. That's not fair. Taissa does mention it. But at least Taissa has a purpose. Like, she's trying to put a stop to Night Taissa. That's the whole reason she went to go see Van. which again, like this, they've done this well. This all tracks. Van has been helping her in the kid timeline, so it makes sense that she would seek out Van in the adult timeline to help with Night Taissa, who's ruining her life, ruining her marriage, you know, her thing is a mom. There you go. That's an example of an answer to the question, where are we going with this? Where I know exactly, I see the end goal for Taissa. She's trying to put an end to Night Taissa. Very simple as that. Is that where it's going to end up? Who knows? Are we going to get a resolution to that by the end of the season? Who knows? Is she even going to continue to want to put an end to her? Maybe she's going to embrace it like, who suggested that to her? Oh, like Lottie suggested to her. Maybe that's going to happen. I don't need to know the actual resolution. That's fine. Take me there however you want to take me there. Get me there however. But I need to know that where the fuck are we going? Like, you know, at least let me know the destination. And now I don't have that for anyone else. Like, I only got that for Taissa. I can't give you a one-line sentence of where Shauna's storyline is going, or where Misty's storyline is going, or where Natalie's storyline is going, or where Van's storyline is going, or where Lottie's storyline is going. I can't give you a one-liner like I was like, oh, Taissa's trying to put an end to Night Taissa. I can't give you that for any other character. Natalie's been, I don't even know what the fuck they're doing with her. She's kind of been all over the place, but she's clearly transitioned from being anti-cult to pro-cult, a transition that I don't think the show has done an adequate job of selling me on anyway. But I don't know. That's just kind of speaking in a more all-encompassing sense on how I feel about the character's direction this season. But this specific episode, the scenes with adult Shauna and adult Misty were absolutely terrible. Like, Shauna chooses to engage in self-care at the cult. But that turns out to be taking care of a goat. Now, yes, they kind of try to make that make sense by beating us over the head with the idea that we're supposed to make a connection between Shauna taking care of the goat and her doubts about having and protecting and raising Callie, especially given what we also see in this episode and last episode, what happens with the baby in the wilderness. Aside from the fact that I literally rolled my eyes when they decided they hadn't been quite obvious enough with that parallel, and they had the one guy say to Shauna, the kid's care is tied to your care. She's like, oh, what? Like if you did, like, I could you have hit the nail any more? Like, could it have been any more obvious? Like, I just feel like that was just one step below a big neon sign that just explains to you conceptually what they're trying to do with Sean. Like, that was one step down. The kid's care is tied to your care. Like, come on, man. Like, you could do, like, I don't know, man. You didn't have to, like, it didn't have to be that obvious. Yeah, and I don't even buy a wellness center thinking that a good way to teach self-care, is to have someone watch a goat. Like, it only kind of sort of works here because a baby goat is called a kid, so that allowed them to loosely make this connection with Shauna and her issues and her doubts and her questions with herself as a mother and her ability to, like I said, to protect and raise Callie. It kind of works because of that. If that was a person who didn't have Shauna's specific trauma, how does it look if you go somewhere seeking out self-care and they go, all right, we'll take care of this goat then? You go, what the fuck is this? Give my fucking money back. But they trotted out that ridiculous premise and made us sit through those shitty, boring scenes because they thought a baby goat being called a kid was enough to spend an entire episode not advancing that storyline at all. So, like, that's why I came out of this episode bored, feeling like I'd wasted my time, like, and why I say it felt like a filler episode. Because, like, look at what we did with this whole thing with this goat. It was like, were you guys watching that and like, this is compelling TV? Like, I'm watching this like, why the fuck, and it's so late in this season on this show, am I watching Shauna in a barn holding a goat trying to learn about self-care? Like how did we get here? You know, and that was my main problem with this episode specifically. Like, it was so boring to me because I felt like there were too many scenes that just felt unnecessary or dull because they didn't inform me of anything new. I felt like I just kept getting more evidence of the shit I already know. Like, I talk about pacing a lot in my reviews, and I'll often commend shows for not taking a lot of time to get us to a point that they've already laid out, as a destination. I think the best example of this doing this wrong is on Game of Thrones when they lay out very early that Daenerys wants to go to Westeros, but then she doesn't actually get to Westeros until, I don't know, I forget at this point, season 6, season 7, somewhere around there. Conversely, Miss Davis over on Peacock is doing an excellent job of this, where they'll lay out what the next task is, and they might start it in the next scene. So they don't waste any time. There's no wasted space on Miss Davis. Everything is necessary, and you get what is necessary. You get everything that's necessary, but you only get what's necessary. This shit got a lot of fat on it. A whole lot of fucking fat on it. And the reason I bring this up is that I don't like ending, this being about pacing, I don't like ending an episode in one place and then ending the following episode in the same fucking place. We ended the last episode with everyone arriving at Lottie's cult and looking like something was about to go down, right? And now we end this episode and there's still a Lottie's cult and nothing went down and nothing looked like it's about to go down. We watched Shauna carry a goat because it was loosely tied to her feelings about having children. That felt like a waste of an episode for Shauna's character. We watched Misty trip balls in a sensory deprivation tank so she could better understand her feelings about a character we've barely seen, that she barely knows. And we had to learn this information via a musical number that felt tonally out of balance with everything this show has ever done. It just... I don't know, man. And then we had to suffer through that voicemail with the, no, you hang up. It was bad, man. This just, I don't know, real bad. I'm not invested in the Walter thing at all. I don't know, man. It's not working for me. I don't know. It's really hard for me to perfectly word why I'm dissatisfied with a lot of what I'm seeing here. I think I've done a fairly good job of explaining it, but I don't know. Can you guys explain, if you liked this episode, what did the musical scene, was that just a thing where I like looking at musicals and shit, so I don't give a fuck about how this doesn't fit into this at all? I like seeing this and hearing this. Was that what it is for you, or did you feel like that was something that fit within this show? Did that work for you in a way outside of maybe I like musicals? Did it work for you in a way outside of that? Because I just don't understand. I don't know. I don't understand why they thought that would work for this show. I feel like that this show doesn't have that kind of vibe. I don't know. It's like they've gone to the the tripping balls thing, with the mushrooms and the shrooms and the soup. We've seen all sorts of people kind of coming out of their character or alternate states of mind or consciousness or whatever the case may be. But I the musical number felt comedic, and this never, that none of the other shit has ever felt comedic. And that's, I think, what I guess is bothering me about it. I don't know, it didn't fit in. But I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you guys here, super fair. I don't like musicals in general. I was never gonna like that. So the best that was gonna get was gonna be, I don't like it, but I understand it. I don't see how this fits in with this show. Ty and Van have advanced 0.00% in both their quest to learn more about Night Taissa. We didn't advance that at all in this episode. And their quest to learn more about each other's private parts. We didn't get to advance that either. I was really looking forward to that part. They were going pretty hard by that campfire. I'm like, you ain't even gonna give me that? Come on, man. The only thing we learned of value in the adult storyline was that Van has cancer and that Lottie's therapist wasn't real, which I already talked about. And I just don't feel like I got proper value out of my time spent with this episode. That hour, I feel like I got way too much of I don't even give a fuck what's happening right now. I'm checked out at this point. The show's gonna have to pull me back in. If I wasn't, the show is done enough to where I'm gonna finish out this season. But if I like these next few episodes, if I feel the same way about these next 3 as I did if I have about the first 7, I'm probably not even gonna watch season 3. So I don't know, man. I'll stop. So moving on. I know you guys have heard of a compliment sandwich. That's when you say something nice about someone, you offer up a criticism, and then you close with something nice, which makes it easier for them to take the criticism. Well, I'm gonna do opposite here. I'm gonna do a criticism sandwich. And since I started this first 18 minutes with my with my distaste for the adult storyline, now I'm gonna talk about one of the things that I did like. I like the Ben flashback scene where Paul takes this call and he says, like, Ben's not ready yet. That scene felt really intense. And I think it was aided by the nature of the flashback. And I think it's cool how they changed how they do the flashbacks week to week. Like, there's, like, subtle little differences. Like, the one time it felt like a TV show. This time it kind of, like, bled the two things together, which I thought was really cool. I liked that this scene in particular, I thought was a creative way to showcase Ben coming to the understanding that his time to die was approaching. But as seems to be the case this season, I can't even fully compliment the scene without it immediately calling to mind something related that I didn't like, which was I didn't need Ben to stand outside of the cabin and have those antlers framed around his head for 45 fucking minutes. When it's up there, like, when it's up there for like a split second, it's dope symbolism. Like, oh shit, like you catch it and you're like, oh shit, that was dope. When it's up there for 45 fucking minutes, it feels like a hammer upside the head over and over and over. I said in my brain, I get it, like 4 times before the scene cut. Like, that's when you lose. Don't treat me like a fucking idiot, man. Like, okay, I see it. Fuck. Like, come on. And like, while I don't want to be rid of the Ben character at all, I have grown tired of the show building up to his death for 86 episodes and then kicking the can down the road to the 87th episode. Like, can they kill this guy already? Like, I bet by the time it happens, like, we're all gonna collectively feel nothing. Like, it's gonna be hard to pull it off, to like pull off a meaningful death for this character when you've kind of been leading up to it for an absurdly long amount of time. So I don't know. And then, like, you literally had him at the precipice of death and you walked it back again. Literally, you walked it back. And I'm just like, okay, like, I feel like by the time they actually kill him, I'm just gonna be like, all right, well, you lost any amount of the emotional impact that this would have had you done it at an appropriate time instead of fucking around and continuing to kick the can down the road to the next episode again. But let's talk about the Wilderness storyline now, which has some good stuff, but again, also by and large was a disappointment. Misty overhears some of the others talking about the idea that she might have killed Crystal, saying that if she had really thought Crystal was lost, she would have wanted to look for her. So Misty decides to make it super obvious that she overheard them by immediately saying, hey, everybody, we should go look for Crystal. Anyone with half a brain would look at the timing and go, oh, she must have heard us talking, but whatever. Like I said, the show's kind of checked out on doing things that make sense. The girls do decide, that was harsh. That was too much. I take that back. The girls do decide to look for Crystal, and one of the new girls who didn't exist or barely existed last season that the show decided they'd use this season and it wouldn't be weird at all, she's like a glass half full type chick, and she's, gracefully points out that if Crystal did die, she'd probably make a mighty delicious French dip. And Misty leaves. Actually, no, she doesn't leave. She leaves, makes it sound like bye. She lies and like dips off from the search party and goes to the spot that does appear to be where Crystal landed, and she can't find her. Crystal seemed extra super fucking dead, so I wonder if the people who helped Javi for the months that he was gone scooped up Crystal's body. Like I said, I feel like she's dead, so I don't know what they need to eat too, so, maybe she will make for a nice charcuterie or something like that. I don't know, but I do think the body is missing. I do think it was retrieved, and I do think that Crystal's body will be discovered probably at some point before the season is over. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm probably going to react pretty poorly if nothing comes out of Crystal sharing that her real name is Kristen. Like, I was almost willing to let it go until Misty called her that again in this episode, which reminded me of that. I'm like, okay, excuse me, now you're reminding me her real name is Kristen? Something better fucking come out of that. But the way this season has been, I don't expect it to, but it should. Something should come out of it. The episode ends cutting back and forth between two scenes. One is of the adults happily dancing in the snow, and the other is of Kid Shauna releasing her pain by beating the ever-loving fuck out of Lottie. I feel like maybe I feel like this was an episode of contrast. You know, we see the difference between how the girls viewed, I don't want to say things, that's too vague, but like how their beliefs in the wilderness versus how a lot of them have opposing viewpoints and beliefs now. Like again, look at Van, totally bought in on Lottie's shit in the wilderness, totally fucked that as an adult because she's got cancer, she ain't got a lot of time, whatever. But that's what this closing sequence kind of felt like. Like in the past, there's pain, violence, hurt, and in the present, there's harmony. At least in that moment. But I don't know. I kind of found, even though I see the contrast here, I still found both endings to kind of be unsatisfying. And you're probably like, man, you weren't gonna like shit. Like you came in expecting to not like this shit. Actually, that's not the case. Again, I still have fond feelings for this show. I go into every episode expecting it to be good. But chalk it up to my expectations that I believe the show has helped set by being great in the past. But I expected all of the girls at Lottie's cult was going to make for some really cool shit in this episode. Seemingly them happily dancing in the snow was like, yeah, I want to be happy that they found joy together. But I just wish it wasn't at the expense of something cool happening. You know, like, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I thought something cool was going to happen with them in this episode, and it didn't. And you know, it's like, oh wow, they're so happy together, but it's also like, man, I really want to see something cool. As for Shauna, it tracks. Lottie has consistently talked about Kid Shauna, the release of pain in the adult timeline all season. She's talked about the suppression and release of primal urges as well. So we see that here with Shauna beating the shit out of Lottie. I just find Shauna is struggling to deal with losing the baby, so let's bring her back to where she needs to be by having her beat the shit out of Lottie, to just be a fundamentally uninteresting turn of events. Like, and that's what I found this whole season to be, is fundamentally uninteresting. Because again, it lacks the sight of an end goal. This is what we're working towards. These are the mysteries that we're gonna discover. Without that, just watching shit happen every week, like I said, it's been fundamentally uninteresting for me. You know, there's only 3 episodes left, and I don't know what, if anything, I have to look forward to. What should I be anticipating, since the show seemingly doesn't want to clue us in on that? And you might be wondering, why is that important? Why do you need to know what we're working toward? But take yourself back to season 1 and all the things that you were excited and hopeful to learn by the end of the season. You wanted to learn who Adam was. You wanted to learn who was blackmailing the girls. You wanted to learn what was going on with Taissa. There was all sorts of interesting stuff. What are you looking forward to now, specifically? Like, I wonder what's going to happen with what? Like, that's my point. What's going to happen with what? I like to be able to ask myself what's going to happen with something specific. Like Shauna's baby. That was specific. What's going to happen with Shauna's baby? That's a defined mystery. Like, who is Adam, or who is blackmailing them? And I feel like there's no defined mysteries this season, or very few in the adult timeline. And it's just like, what's going to happen in this bland, generic, overarching sense? Like, what's going to happen? Not what's going to happen with this, or what's going to happen with this person, what's going to happen with this storyline. Just what's going to happen. And I think that's probably my biggest issue with the show this season, is that I wish I felt a direction, and I don't. And the lack of a direction has made a lot of what I've experienced feel pointless, empty, uninteresting. And then again, you throw in shit like the Shauna, the fucking cum caper, and it's just like, what are we doing here? So, I don't know. If you guys really like this episode, I'd be interested to hear why. Watch your mouth, but be respectful. But I mean, I'd be interested to hear why we have a dialogue, or if you're really feeling this season, I'd be interested to hear why you disagree with, like, and I do want you to tell me why you disagree with what I've said. Don't be like, I like it. Like, you know, tell me, like, you said, like, give reasons. Like, I don't sit in front of you guys and say, this shit sucks. I sit in front of you guys and go, this shit sucks because. Tell you know, if you like it, I'd be interested to hear why you like it. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you're loving this season, I apologize for shitting on something that you adore this season. I don't apologize for not liking it, but sorry. I'll see you next week for episode 8, hopefully. And until then, peace.